Gundam.tk presents SD Unicorn Gundam. Hey everybody, Robert184 from Gundam.tk and welcome to part 2 of my review of the SD Unicorn Gundam. Don't forget to check out part 1 to see all the parts and details. And now, it's time to put this thing together. When you're putting together the legs, you'll notice that the hips here, that you can pivot the legs, which is a great feature, very similar to the 00 kits, with the waist, chest, and head all put together. Here is the completed SD Unicorn Gundam without its weapons, and you really get an idea of how they bulked up the upper body, and I think that looks pretty good. And you'll really notice how much psycho frame they show, although please remember that I did use a red Real Touch marker on the lower arms and on the legs, so that's not something that you'd usually see. In terms of posability, you're able to move the legs this far front and back. Off to the side is alright because it's on a polycap inside there. The ankles, like I said, if you want them to stay in, you're not actually going to get a lot of mobility, but you can sort of separate them a little bit and then you'll get more, but that's not something I'm going to recommend too much. The arms can spin around no problem, and because the elbow is on the ball joint, as mentioned, you can have no problems doing that, but if you move it too much, they are going to want to pop off. And the head just mounts onto a ball joint in there, so you're able to turn that around and not move it up very far, but you can have it with the menacing looking down look without too much difficulty. Weaponizing could not be any simpler, as you're just going to attach the backpack onto here and plug this part of the shield into the side of the forearm. So weaponized, you get a pretty cool look at this kit overall, and I think that the shield really adds to something, and the fact that you're able to twist the elbows forward means you don't have to have the shield permanently back into the left, Victory Gundam, and the fact that you get an oversized beam magnum really sort of adds to this, the feeling of size and heft that the Unicorn Gundam should have, considering what a massive Universal Century suit it is. And I think that overall I'm pretty impressed with this look so far. For size comparison, the Unicorn Gundam is a big Gundam to begin with, so it's no surprise that it towers over Amuro's SD Gundam. And when you compare it to another new release, the 00 Gundam, in this case this is the 00 Riser, actually the height is not that different. The head of the Unicorn is a little bit bigger, and it doesn't have the width of the 00, but you do get a similar impression here in size between the two. Finally, one of the biggest differences with newer SD Gundams is that they have legs, and if you compare this to an old SD Gundam, in this case the Crossbone X1, you'll notice that it's just feet and a waist. So the Unicorn right there, it should be taller than this tiny 15-meter Gundam, but the SDs really reflect that, but I think that's more of a design choice that Bandai's been going with, as opposed to an attempt for them to get the scales right. There's no difficulty at all attaching an action base to the SD Gundam, and with that you're able to do some aerial poses where the fact that the legs are not all that posable, you can sort of cover that up with an aerial pose. Although really, what else can you do besides him having the beam magnum straight out? For the transformation itself, you're going to do the easy stuff first, and they tell you to take the head off, and then you just flip in the chest vents here, squeeze these parts in together, and you're going to close up the chest. Oh, also I should have had that open before, but instead it will just seal that up, and remember that the waist skirt and the sides do not transform, and this is colored, so of course that's going to stay as is. And then we're going to pull out the shoulders and do some work with that. So basically you pop the top off of the shoulder, and you'll see here that there's this separate piece, you can see that line there, and there's basically two places you can attach that, the outer way and the in way. So basically you're just going to plug that in, and actually what you do is if you take off the right shoulder here, you're going to take it off, flip it around, and then you can put that in there. You'll see that there's two different attachments here, one that's keeping it up and one that allows it to go inside. So if you take the right shoulder and then put it on the left shoulder, it sinks down and covers up the psycho frame. And just from this part alone, you can see that there is no psycho frame visible. Next, similar to the shoulders, you're going to take off the beam sabers and flip this around, and then have this cover up the opposite side. And once you've covered that up, it ends up covering most of the psycho frame that was visible in the backpack. To transform the head, the first thing you're going to do is pop off both of the side pieces, which is not dissimilar from the Master Grade, and then you're going to pull the face actually right out of the head, and you'll see on the back that we have the unicorn face over here. So when you plug in the face here, and then you're just going to take these cheeks and you'll have flipped them around, And though I didn't line the back because I'm not really planning on having this on display in Unicorn mode too often, it doesn't look too bad, and of course, you're going to bend that into place so that we have just the unicorn horn instead of the traditional Gundam V fin. When the transformation is all said and done, you're going to notice a lot less psycho frame, especially in the oversized upper body, but down below, you're still going to have all the places that I drew it in red on the arms and the legs, but mostly in the waist section. Even if you had an unlined, unpainted SD Unicorn Gundam, you'd still have the red psycho frame available, or visible there. So it's not quite perfect in Unicorn mode, but that being said, it actually does look better than I expected, especially with the green sticker around the eye and the overall whiteness of the upper body. For Unicorn mode action pose time, basically you're going to have the closed up shield, which doesn't look quite as good because you can't really compress it down to its full small size, but you still get a pretty cool effect with the head, and the bent beam saber doesn't bother me as much as I expected that it might. And sorry, though you can see the SD in Unicorn mode because the transformation is pretty simple, the Master Grades one is not. So I'm afraid that I'm not going to go through that effort to show you how they both look in Unicorn mode side by side. So now some final thoughts on the SD Unicorn Gundam. And I have to say that for 1,000 yen, if you're a fan of either the suit, the mobile suit design, the novels, if you've been able to read them, or the anime itself which just came out, I would say that you have to buy this kit, and for a couple simple reasons. One, for the price of 1,000 yen, it's a little expensive for an SD Gundam. However, you get a lot of value with this, mostly in the fact that the transformation with this one works. So when I compare this to the Master Grade one, where the transformation is something that's a chore rather than a pleasure, this one is very easy and very easy to pull off. And I have to say that the overall styling of this kit is something that I'm really pleased with, especially in the fact that they just give you so much white and so much of the psycho frame, and the fact that that's all done in proper clear parts is something I'm really happy about. Now, I have to say that I don't know if I should have used the red marker to go around the bottoms, but I'm going to have this in destroy mode more often than not on my shelf than Unicorn mode, so of course that's something that for me is worth it, but for another 1,000 yen, you can just go out and buy a second one if you really want to. And everything that I just said though, if you consider when it's in Unicorn mode, the fact that the upper body is so white, it sort of distracts from the fact that I've drawn at the bottom and the fact that Bandai doesn't allow you to transform the waist. But in return, we do get a solid transformation instead of something with too many small parts and small details where things get frustrating and go wrong. Bottom line, I would say that this is one of the best SD Gundams that I have ever built or seen, and with a tiny little bit of effort on your part to make it look good, and even right out of the box, because of the fact of the seals that they give you, I think that this is not a bad kit at all and something you'd be really happy to have. So anyway, everybody, Robert184, hope you've all been enjoying the OVA of Gundam Unicorn, somehow, somewhere on the web. And anyway, stay tuned for lots more reviews, including a few more SD Gundams. Anyway, stay tuned for lots more. Thanks for watching, everybody. Rate, comment, subscribe, and throw comments on my front page. It's always great to hear from you. See you next time. It's ironic that out of the Master Grade and the Super Deformed, which one has the better transformation?